To the one again another new tutorial, and in this tutorial I'm going to talk about many more interesting concepts in your Android application development. So we will be talking about different steps needed to present app users with dynamic content. So what do you mean by dynamic content? The content that is pretty much fetched from the remote server is called dynamic content, right? So the contents are not static. You don't need to pretty much present the content pretty much static content in your application, but you will be pretty much fetching the data from the remote server. So this is the most important thing that you have to understand. So we will introduced to different libraries required to retrieve and handle the dynamic data, and one of the libraries that we will be using to fetch data from the network endpoint is using Retrofit. So I will also introduce many interesting concept that is really necessary when you are working with the remote server, that is a REST API, JSON, XML, and that's it, guys. So we will be talking about many more interesting things. I will also be talking about in this chapter I will be talking about how to fetch the network endpoint using Retrofit. Then in the upcoming chapters I will also be teaching how to parse JSON payloads into Kotlin data objects using Mosi library, and I will also be teaching you about the another library to load called Glide, to load images into your image view. Okay, so pretty much we will be talking about a lot of concepts, but in this chapter I will be just talking about Retrofit and how to fetch the network in fetch data from network endpoint using Retrofit. Okay, so so let's go further. Okay, so as you can see, that data presented to users can come from different sources, right? So it can be hard coded in your app, like as I told you, static datas. But if you try to hard code or like add static datas, this has some limitation, because you cannot present to enormous amount of data, right? You have to publish and update your application data. So like for example, some data is like currency exchange rate, the real-time availability of assets, and the current weather cannot be hard coded, because some real-time data cannot, you cannot statically hard code the data into your application. So there must be fetched and updated simultaneously from your server, right? Otherwise, like, your data looks very static and it looks very so users are always interested in dynamic data. So in such cases we need to fetch the data from the server, and one of the most common architecture for serving such data is called REST. Okay, REST protocol. So we this REST, it means representational state transfer. Okay, we use this architecture, or we can say this architecture or protocol, whatever you can say, to call to define to fetch the data from the server. Okay, so REST architecture is defined by set of 6 constraints: client server architecture, statelessness, cacheability, and a layered system, a code on demand, optional, and a uniform interface. So pretty much it has a lot of is defined by 6 constraints. Okay, so if you so as I told you, the 6 constraints are uh, let me represent one by one. It's first is client server architecture, then we have statelessness, then we have cacheability, then we have a layered system, then we have a code on demand, which is pretty optional, and we have a uniform interface. Okay, so we have this REST architecture is pretty much depending on this architecture protocol is depending on different, this 6 6 constraints. Okay, So if you want to know more, you can pretty much go and visit the links, and understand more. Okay. So when applied to web services so web services like API stands for application programming interface. Okay, application programming interface. So when you applied with this interface, we get a um, uh, hypertext transfer protocol, HTTP. uh, Hypertext transfer protocol. Okay, so it's based on the RESTful API. Okay, so API, it's like the web services, web services are API. Services are API. So REST, it's like architecture. You can pretty much call it as architecture, not a protocol, right, guys? So REST, also sometimes they call it protocol, but REST, it is pretty much like an architecture. Okay. State transfer architecture. We have web services called API, application programming interface. Then we have a hypertext transfer protocol. Web service, we get a hypertext based RESTful API, based on RESTful API. So HTTP protocol is the foundation of data communication for the World Wide Web. It's like a data communication protocol. Data communication protocol for the World Wide Web, right? So, and hosted on and accessed through the internet, as you know that access through the internet and hosted on the and access through the internet, right? So it is the protocol used by servers all around the web to serve websites to user in the form of HTML documents. So HTML documents. So what we will get is the final thing is like HTML documents, images, style sheets, and so on, right? So this you will be getting. So you can pretty much go and check out and learn more about this in your from the website, right? And what is this RESTful API? Relies on the standard HTTP protocols. Like HTTP protocols consist of many things, like you can have HTTP methods, HTTP methods, right? Like get, you have post, you have put, you have delete, you have like many more, and so on, you can say, to actually fetch and transform data. So these methods are used for to fetch and transform data. Transform data in the sense like you can store, delete, update, any kind of transformation is also done on your remote datas, your datas on your remote server, right? So we can rely on like this built-in Java HTTP URL connection class to execute these HTTP methods. Alternatively, we can also use OK HTTP protocol, which offers additional features like gping, like compressing and decompressing, right? Redirects, retries, and both synchronous and asynchronous calls. So from Android 4.4, HTTP URL protocol is just a wrapper around the OK HTTP. So OK HTTP is mostly used. So we are going to use Retrofit, so that which is currently used, which uses the OK HTTP protocol. So we can using Retrofit, we can benefit from type safety, which is better suited for handling the REST calls. So Retrofit is better choice because it supports OK HTTP And it is better for handling REST calls, right? So the most okay, what is this JSON? The most commonly data is represented in a JSON format, which is a JavaScript object notation, and it's a text-based data transfer format. It's a text based data transfer format. Okay, so as the name implies, it is derived from a JavaScript. So it has been one of the most popular standard for data transfer, and its most modern programming languages have libraries that encode or decode data to and from JSON. So like you can have a simple JSON example, like okay, let me create a simple cat JSON example. So it will pretty much look like this one. So let me create a simple JSON called cat. It is cat with the array. Pretty much we have array of objects, which is pretty much, it has a format of key value format. Name is let's get Bill, and let's put the email of the cat is billy@cat.com. And we can have also other cats, like same as name as Tilly, Bill until, and the email of this cat is till at cat.com, right? It's a pretty simple JSON format. It always consists of, like, you have always key and value appear, and key and in this value format. Value can be object, or no, it can be arrays. This is array, or it can be object, and each object can also contain other name and value pair, right? Name and value pair, you see, and name and value pair, and name and value pair. So these are objects, and these are arrays. You have now two cat objects right here in this array. So yeah, so this is a simple JSON format. So another common data structure that you can use is okay, let me just close this unnecessary fragments. Okay, so this is JSON, right? Cat JSON file. So another format is also XML. XML is actually, we have already been using a lot of XML files, you see, for layouts, but actually we can also use it for our REST services, right? XML stands for extensible markup language. So it's also another like data structure used by RESTful services, and which encodes documents in the format that is human and machine readable. So it's pretty much human and machine readable format. So XML is considerably more verbose than JSON, in the sense, like, it's more, verbose in the sense it is more descriptive. Like, JSON is in this format, but XML is pretty, like, okay, let me create the XML for cat XML file. Okay, here I have created this cat to the XML file, and it's more verbose. Like, for example, I can say cat okay, you see, I have closed the, but actually I cannot create the cat, because, like, cat must be declared closed, so I cannot declare the cat. But anyhow, pretty much it's the format for this one in the XML will be something like this one. So cats let's see if I can, and each cat will be consisting of name, and one is Bill, and there was also another one called email, which was bill@cat.com, and same I have another cat which was till, and till till sorry guys. Okay, yeah, till at cat.com. The format for uh, the same JSON in XML is in this format. Okay, anyhow, I still have not declared the elements as cats, but pretty much the structure of a XML extensible markup language XML is pretty much like this. Okay, so that's it, and let me remove it for the moment because we are not going to use it, and now it was just for the information purpose. So when we obtain a JSON payload, we necessarily need to we essentially receive actually a string. When you receive a JSON, it's actually you are receiving a text. It's a string. It's a text based data transfer format. Okay, and to convert the string into a data object, we have to use like there are some few options, like you can use JSON, Jackson, or Moshi for JSON converters. We have options like JSON, Jackson, or Moshi. So we will be using Moshi in my next tutorial because it's more lightweight. Okay, Moshi is more lightweight because we will be always focusing on some lightweight programming, right? So yeah, so we'll be using Moshi in my previous in the upcoming videos to convert the JSON string into data object. It's more okay, JSON converters to convert JSON string to data objects. Okay, so this is the idea. So and yeah, also in the upcoming videos we will be also talking about glide, as I told you, to load data from the server. So we'll be also using that, and but let's now focus on implementing retrofit. Let's focus on fetching data from the network endpoint. Okay, so okay, let me tell about, because we are going to use glide because it will make our it's also lightweight and makes our that loads our it helps us to load the images from the server when we need them in an easy manner, very lightweight, and keep our APK size smaller. So that's the reason why we are using glide. So we'll be talking about using that in our in the next lectures. So for the moment we'll be focusing on retrofit to fetch data from the network endpoints. So for this we'll be using a simple API from it's a free API from a RESTful API that offers us some data, okay, which is called https the catapi.com. okay, so we'll be using this for our demonstration. Okay, and so this RESTful API will be offering us some free data, so we'll be using this so let's create the project, and let's go right to the implementation. So let me see one thing. Go to the manifest. I have created a simple activity called cat API activity. Okay, and I have also created a layout called activity cat API. Then I have to check out my manifest, Android manifest, and let me declare my activity. It's called cat API activity. So export it to true, and then we have to use our intent filters because it's gonna be our launcher activity for this demonstration. Okay, and let me close the activity here. Okay, and we have to also check one interesting thing, because as we are using the that we are utilizing the data from the server, remote server, right? The dynamic data provided by the remote server, so we have to access the permission for using the internet, because we are gonna use the internet to access the data, right? Because the data is somewhere in the remote server. So with this permission for using internet being granted, so now we have to go to set up our retrofit. So retrofit is a type safe library provided by Square, which is built on top of OK HTTP client. So retrofit help us generate uniform resource locators, so URL. So it helps us generate uniform resource locators, URLs, so which are the address of the service endpoints so we want to access. So it also makes the decoding of JSON payload easier by providing integration with several parsing libraries. Sending data to the server is also easier with retrofit, so it also helps us with encoding the request. So yeah, you can just check out the retrofit website. And but now we will be focusing on how to implement the retrofit. So let me go to my Gradle, build a Gradle app. Okay, here, so what we have to do is we have to pretty much implement our retrofit library. Okay, so yeah, our retrofit library will be implemented here. Okay, okay, let me go and check for retrofit. Okay, retrofit, yeah, so this is, you can get more information about retrofit here. Okay, so there is a pretty much dedicated website where you can get the introduction, API declaration, retrofit configuration, everything is here. So for the moment we'll be yeah, using this retrofit. Okay, so the latest version, okay, let me check the latest version of this retrofit API declaration. Okay, let's go to the GitHub, and okay, so this is the latest version is 2.9.0. okay, so let's go and chill out with this retrofit. Okay, so let's implement so let's implement the retrofit. Let me sync now, and yeah, and our Gradle will be pretty much importing our retrofit library. And okay, so Gradle sync has finished. So we have included a retrofit in our project, so we can proceed to set it up. So first, to access a HTTPS endpoint, we start by defining a contract with the endpoint. A contract to access the this endpoint, that is http api, the catapi.com that I have provided, right? So yeah, so there are actually few things to note. First, we will notice that the contract is implemented as an interface, so we have to implement the contract as an interface. Then how we define contract for retrofit. So next we will also be creating the cat api service, right? And pretty much more. And okay, so so the so we will also be talking about more interesting things in the upcoming videos, like I will be talking about services, work manager, and notifications, which will be very interesting for you guys. So we'll be also talking about more about many interesting concepts like coroutines, and flows, uh, and yeah, like the patterns such as model view, view model pattern, it's for having a good architecture pattern, so. And first let me provide you a clean sample of how to implement this, how to read data from an api. So without wasting any time, let's go and create a endpoint. And uh, let's read the API, right? But for that, the most important thing is not only the retrofit library, but there is also another thing which is called a converter, because we need a converter. We need another library called uh, called retrofit converters scalars library. Okay, so let me also add that. It's to converter scalars library. Okay, so what is the uh, why we have to implement this converters the scalar library is because if we try to just use only retrofit without the converters, then your application will crash, giving illegal argument exception. Okay, so it's because retrofit needs us to tell the app how to process the server response to the string. Okay, actually the server response is how it is being converted to string, so we have to provide the information. We have to so we need also like retrofit know which how to convert the data to the string, right? Server response to the string. So this processing is done with the retrofit calls converter, right? Retrofit converters. So to set the converter factory instance to our retrofit instance, we need to add a converter factory, and which is called scalars converter factory, included in this library called scalars. Okay, and so it's pretty important for us to import this library, because otherwise our application is gonna crash. Okay, so we need to. So yeah, I will also let you know about this in our when we implement it. Okay, so now I pretty much we are okay with our library. So now let me go to the layout. It's pretty simple empty layout with nothing. uh, okay, so what we need to do here is we need to add a text view, simple text view, because I'm gonna load the response from the API, and then I'm gonna load it in my text view. So wrap content, and pretty much let me set up the ID. is it's called server response, and here is like text is yeah, hello server. Okay, and let me extract as a hello server, and let me, it's a constant layout, so top to top of parent, bottom to bottom parent, start to start of parent, end to end of parent, and our text will be something like this. So actually I'm gonna load the server response in this text view. Okay, so so first what we need to do is we need to create this API service class. Okay, so let's create the API service class. Okay, let me close the, so this get API subfolder will be containing one API service class is get API service service. Okay, so it will be pretty much like a interface, and it will be doing search, it will be searching yeah, let me just search images. Okay, and says the query limit int size format string. Okay, and call to a string. Actually it will be returning a string. Retrofit 2. Okay, and let me add the, we'll be using this method images search. As I told you, we'll be using this HTTP method, like get to HTTP method. As you know that HTTP is a hypertext transfer protocol based on RESTful API, data communication protocol for the internet. So we'll be using this get method. Okay, and this get method, then we will be using these parameters like query to the URL. As you can see, query parameter appended to the URL, and it will be pretty much returning a string. So we'll be updating our value like this text view with this string value returned, right? So okay, so what next? What we have to do now is now we have added the interface that pretty much defines our API interface. Okay, so we have defined our API interface. So actually it's like pretty much defining the contract with the endpoint. Okay, so this is pretty much a contract. Okay, you should just understand. So, and after defining this interface, so we have to pretty much find a way to make a call to this service, right? So we have to implement this we have to make a call using a retrofit. So we have to set up our retrofit. So let's go in our main like this cat API activity, and let's do some necessary setup with our retrofit setup. So first thing is we have to do is we have to create our retrofit sorry, so let's create a retrofit sorry retrofit by lazy, and let's create a retrofit builder, and which is our base URL is pretty much as I told you, https. This is our base URL. API dot thecatapi.com slash version 1. Okay, let me also update this API. So we'll be pretty much using this base URL with the methods that I have already. Then we have to add the we have to converter factory. We have to add, it's called scalars converter factory library that I have implemented, right? The scalars library that I told you, this converter scalars factory library. And then we have to build our retrofit. Okay, so now we have the retrofit ready to be used to make handle the REST calls. So that means to create a call, and now what we have to do is we have to make a call, right? For the moment we are using just calls, but in the future lecture I will be also talking about flows and coroutines, so you can remove calls with flows and something like that, because as you can see here I'm using call, but here you can just after we learn about coroutines and flow, we can also just replace these calls with flows. Okay, I will be teaching this in the next lecture. So okay, so now what next is we have to pretty much create also another function called get cat response. So we have to get the cat response. So what we have to do is we have to make a call using the okay, we have to also create the API service. So still more, like we have to create the API service. So private val API service by lazy is retrofit dot create the cat API service class. Okay, so we create this cat API service, and we use this API service to make a necessary call of search images. Let me see the limit 1 and query format full. So it will pretty much return us the response in a string, right? String format. So so what we have to do is now we have to enqueue the call, enqueue object callback is a string. It's responding a string. In the error, if there is error, throw ball. No, it's a callback, it's a string. Sorry guys, sorry. And then what we have to do is we have to override on response. Okay, let me recheck it. Okay, you do is on. Actually we have to override these two methods. Oh, sorry guys, Okay, let me implement the members response and on failure, right? So we have to implement this response and failure. So if on response is like, if response is successful, then okay, so what if it is successful? Do we have to update the response in the text view, right? So we have to do that. If it is not successful, then we have to log out the error saying okay, let me create a companion object, constval tag. Okay, our tag is a cat API activity. Okay, so we have failed to get the results, right? So then also we can pretty much now add also some response error body string or to string, yes. Okay, and or we can also add it better way is a string, otherwise it's a empty string, right? Okay, so here we have everything, and now okay, we have to update the response in the text. Okay, so for that we have to get our access to the text view. So let me create also the text view is a text view is a text view by lazy, and find view by id r.id dot server response, right? So this is our text view is let me write server text view. Okay, so now we have to update the response with the text view is server text view dot text equals to response dot body yes, so that's we are, and I think it's pretty much okay with what we have to do, right? Okay, so we will be just running our application now. Okay, let me run the application. Okay, let me see if everything is fine. Okay, it's pretty much just running. The application is pretty running, and let me go to the emulator. Okay, so nothing is being displayed here. Why? Okay, so in case of the failure we have to fail to get search results. Okay, let me also add some logs, tag failed to get search results, and throwable, yeah. Okay, so I want to just check my logcat if there was any errors. Um, uh, Error. Let me see. Uh, I have some bad call made by UID, so it doesn't belong to UID. Okay, so let me just cancel it again and get API activity clear filter get API API activity. Okay, so let me launch my application again. Let me go to my logcat. Okay. Uh, Seems it's not working. Seems the get API. Okay, let me just go. Okay, so because I have the extra space there, so let me run again. Let me go to the services images, the search. Okay, let me do one interesting thing here is let me go to my this version 1 and then let me add this images that search. Okay, so okay, it must be providing this actually the value. Okay, let me see it again. Actually, what's happening here? First, me remove the input manager. Okay, let me try to make the calls again. Okay, there's something that's not working with the. Okay, let me figure out what is not working about. It's server response. Okay, and we have this server response. We have activity. Okay, so it's this one. Logcat is error. So we are pretty much not going to the. Okay, yes, because you know why it's not getting, because we have not applied it yet. Okay, yes, we have now the necessary calls, right? Yeah, I was making some stupid mistake of not calling the method, you know. Okay, so we are pretty okay with the result here, as you can see here. Okay, so I think, yeah, that's it, guys. We have now the necessary response here, which is pretty much being updated in our text view, right? Okay, guys, yeah, catch you up in the next lecture, guys. Thank you.